Now, the RCC Executive Director, Lila Gordon, and our RCC Board Treasurer, Paul Thomas, will go over our progress and plans and how they impact our budgets. After that, we will listen to you, and then the board will move the instructions to the staff regarding preparation of the FY24 budget. Go, Lila.
Thank you, Bev. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on our highlights because that's why you have that beautiful annual report that should have been given to you when you came in. It contains everything that we experienced in 2021 from both the success perspective as well as the challenge perspective. And obviously, we spent a great deal of time in 2021 dealing with the pandemic. We managed, nonetheless, to maintain the 40-plus partnerships with local 501c3 Reston-based organizations, as well as other county agencies to really maximize the service and delivery of content and services to this community. In addition to that, we have 17 sponsorships that are listed in the annual report. Those involve RCC funding for other events that take place in the community that are aligned with our mission and that these organizations have primary responsibility for. And then, of course, we spent all of 2021, like all of you, monitoring public health and adapting and changing to address the kinds of pandemic-related challenges we were experiencing. We were very strong in terms of encouraging our staff and our community with our partners to become vaccinated. And quite honestly, RCC had the enviable distinction of achieving about 98% full vaccination of our entire staff, which I am really pleased about, mainly because that has kept our staff healthy. And those figures of vaccination you can all get on the Fairfax County Health Department web pages, but I think this community did a great job as well. And that's really what was key to our success in being able to support programming in a challenging year. We continued our community conversations on racial justice and social equity, and they were vital to our understanding of the challenges we all still confront because of racial injustice and inequity in our communities. Next slide. We were pushed in our timeline a little to develop our current, now adopted strategic plan, but we did get it done in 2021. Nonetheless, the board adopted the new strategic plan in October. These are the pillars of the strategic plan, and this is the lens through which we report now on a monthly basis to the board, and we'll be reporting on an annual basis in our annual planning conversations. And these pillars reflect the input we received from the 2019 community survey, from a very targeted outreach effort to validate those results from the 2019 survey, and the feedback we've been getting from the community between that comprehensive survey being undertaken and 2021. So you can see there they are: facilities, equity, community connections, programs and services, communications, stewardship, and accreditation. So these are some of the highlights of our near-term focus. We are obviously involved in an ongoing conversation about facilities, which you all have been a part of. We continue to work with the Reston Opportunity Neighborhood Program with the partners involved in that are Fairfax County Government Human Services and Cornerstones, and we continue to program collaboratively with those organizations to achieve collective impact that really moves the needle on student performance, and doing so through the kinds of inclusion and social connection that we try to build with the events we provide in Opportunity Neighborhood sites. We are establishing a new department of offsite and collaboration programs, and that department will really focus on putting RCC program content everywhere in the community, particularly in the new neighborhoods that are being built in the Silver Line corridor. The programming that we do will continue to expand to meet the demands of new offsite programs. And we are in the process of building a new website that will at long last deliver the desired feature that has been expressed to us for more than 6 years in community meetings, of a community calendar that Reston organizations can upload their events onto, and will be a one-stop shop for anybody who wants to know what's going on in Reston on any given night or day or weekend or what have you. And we're very excited about that. We hope to launch the new website with that community calendar function by sometime mid to late summer of this year. So stay tuned. And then, of course, we became a CAPRA, Commission on Accreditation for Park and Recreation Agencies. We were accredited in May of 2020, and we spend a considerable amount of time making sure we are in compliance with the 154 standards of that accreditation process. We will need to achieve reaccreditation in May of 2025. In addition to that, this year, every year on a 3-year rotational basis, Fairfax County Internal Audit Office does a comprehensive audit of purchasing and personnel transactions for all county agencies. We just went through our audit, and we came out with a very clean report, and the thing you always want to read in a report from an audit, which is no findings. So we're very proud of our staff team for achieving that. They made a couple suggestions. They did a final test of the suggestions that they made on our P-card processes, and that came back with a clean bill of goods from them, and so our audit is officially closed. Next slide. So our capital planning process involves a 3-year capital improvement plan. We adjust that plan as we need to, as we get more and more refined estimates, and as we find time in the calendar to schedule major capital projects. So one major example of how things can change from the time you try to schedule something like a roof replacement project and the reality of being able to fit it in is that we too have been hit by supply chain and inflation pressures. So the final phase of our 3-phase roof replacement project is scheduled for this summer, but it's going to cost nearly double what it was originally estimated to cost. We will not need a dedicated HVAC unit for air conditioning the fly system that we currently have, so we will save money by not purchasing that kind of a unit to replace, but it will cost us about $32,000 to remove the one that's up there and then to put the new roof in place after that. So there are adjustments that we're going to submit through the carryover process that occurs in June to accommodate those new costs. We are also going to finish the LED lighting in the theater replacement process. That has been a project that's taken about 4 to 5 years now, and we're going to wrap it up and finish purchasing the final 60-some instruments, and that will be another cost, a net increase of $70-some thousand that will go into carryover as well. So you'll see how these things show up on the next tables. Our programming and financial goals are described there. We in essence, we try to budget very conservatively. We try to leave enough room in the budget to adapt to changing circumstances and find a way to end our years with money left over that gets returned back to the fund balance reserve accounts. Next slide. So these are our projects, and I hope you can read them on the papers, the handouts you have there. But I mentioned the roof replacement project that's in the FY23 budget and carryover column there. We look to replace the elevator in this building, which is right over there, in FY24. We are scheduled to replace the public carpet areas of this building in FY24. Some of these projects are finally complete, which we're excited about. We're in the middle of the security camera replacement project that was scheduled for the FY22 budget, so some of the funds that are still in progress on that purchase order will get included in our carryover submission as well. And that's pretty much the picture for Hunter's Woods. The big recent project we did at Hunter's Woods, obviously, was the pool renovation project, and we do anticipate being able to save, after all of these carryover adjustments are made, we'll still be returning between $600,000 and $700,000 to the fund balance reserve categories. These are the theater projects. I mentioned the adjustment will be asking for $75,200 to complete the LED lighting instrument replacement project. We saved a little money on the rigging line replacement project that was undertaken this year. We also reassigned this expenditure of $9,500 that occurred in FY22 to the operating budget because Fairfax County changed the threshold for accountable property from $5,000 to $10,000. So any piece of equipment that costs less than $10,000 is now something we purchase in the operating category. We have to replace the Genie Lift, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a mechanical stand-up elevator that a technician gets on, and then it goes and lifts them up so they can change the lighting instruments. We'll be buying a new light board in FY24, and there are going to be more specialized cameras and display and recording equipment in the center stage in FY24 because of live streaming, basically, and the kinds of technical equipment that requires. And then finally, in our Lake Ann facility, what we heard through the community survey processes was that people were very unhappy with the state of the restrooms over there, so we refurbished those restrooms. We did so at considerable savings over what it would have cost to renovate them. We skirted around the notion of renovating by just really exchanging fixtures, which I don't know what that amounts to in terms of real difference, but it was enough to save us some tens of thousands of dollars because when you replace rather than renovate, you don't have as much overhead involved. And then also we will be replacing the carpet in the Lake Ann public areas as well in FY24. So those are the highlights of our capital improvement and capital maintenance projects, and those are over the existing 3-year time horizon, which is the current fiscal year we're getting ready to exit, the upcoming fiscal year, and the FY24 fiscal year that's a year down the road. Next slide. We always provide this because it helps people see how budgets in terms of actual spending fluctuate over time. These are the 3 most recently completed, fully completed fiscal years, and you'll notice that they end with FY21, and that's because our FY22 budget, which we're technically in the last month of, we will not close that out and report that out to the board until July 25th of 2022, which is about a month away. I don't expect it to be any kind of shocking news that the board will get in July, but you can tell from these 3 fiscal years prior that the impact of COVID was pretty dramatic in terms of our expenditures and our revenue from fees. Next slide. And now I'm going to let Paul talk about our budget approach for FY23 and FY24.
Thank you, Lila. So as Lila mentioned, the fiscal year 22 results won't be available until mid-July. Each column here should be read independently, therefore there's not really a running balance shown here. After carryover, so just so you understand the process a little bit, we will submit our carryover memo probably in early July. That will be approved by the Board of Supervisors in September, and so that means that the carryover expenses will be posted in October. So we have some time to go before the carryover expenses are posted. The budgets in our monthly reports will be aligned with our fiscal year 23 expectations. Notable items we plan to submit in our carryover package, which again we'll be submitting at the end of this month or beginning of the next month, include funding for the final phases of the roof replacement and LED lighting projects that Lila mentioned. Also, as Lila also mentioned, RCC is expanding our personnel to create the new department for offsite and collaboration programs, and that will require new funding for a director position. We'll also be doing an ambitious artist residency project in fiscal year 23 in conjunction with our local schools. As you can see, the balance of funds from savings from the aquatics renovation project haven't been assigned yet. Those will go into the capital project reserve line in fiscal year 23 after the carryover package is approved, again in the early fall. In fiscal year 24, the numbers here reflect the personnel and operating costs we anticipate adding in fiscal year 23 that will be recurring. Finally, you'll note that the capital projects reserve line increased for fiscal year 23 revised and fiscal year 24 proposed budgets. The board and staff anticipate that RCC will need to expand its facility footprint soon due to the unmet demand we already experience for our visual arts and fitness and wellness studio programs at RCC Lake Ann. In addition, that facility is a leased facility with a date certain for RCC to either own or vacate it in 2039. We are aware of the increasing population we're serving and that a facility expansion needed to serve that growing population may happen in a variety of ways. We may replace or enlarge our RCC Lake Ann footprint by 2039 or locate space elsewhere, either to replace or in addition to the RCC Lake Ann facility. Whatever the case, we used a current construction figure of $450 per square foot and a range of 13,000 to 18,000 square feet to consider the right capital project reserve ceiling number and set that new number at $7 million. In practice, this means that RCC funds are allocated first to our personnel, operating, and capital project costs for the current fiscal year. Then, the balance of the remaining funds are allocated to the reserve accounts, first to maintenance, which is pegged to 12% of revenue, then to the feasibility studies, which is pegged to 2% of revenue, then to capital projects, which we are now setting a new level of $7 million, and finally, the program and economic contingency reserve for any remaining balances. We look forward to getting the fiscal year 22 year-end actuals on July 25th of this year. And that's pretty much it. When we're done, we can go over any questions. Now, back to Lila.
Okay, so this is your turn, and you all did great with the feasibility study report out, so same basic rules apply. We have technical rules about length of time for testimony, 3 minutes for individuals, 5 minutes for organizations. We do ask, since this is a public hearing, that you provide your name and address when you come up to speak. And we aren't going to be very rigid about enforcing time unless it just goes on quite a bit longer than 3 or 5 minutes. So we welcome your feedback and input at this time. Karen, did we have anybody who registered to speak? If so, I hope you know who you are and you get right up there. Okay.
Susan Meeks Versteeg again with the Reston Corral, 2310 Colts Neck Road. I was intrigued to hear that you're planning on having streaming capabilities from Center Stage. Is that system that you're planning something that will be adaptable and be able to use for
Well,
groups performing goods as
we're
well?
going to, we need to build up to being able to better accommodate that. There will never be the right accommodation in Center Stage because of the angles. We also need to work with our partners in the county, in the Department of Information Technology, to greatly improve the internet connectivity and the bandwidth of it in this room and in meeting rooms. Those are our challenges right now, and that's why we don't simulcast performances. And then, of course, there are challenges. We did live streaming to Facebook with the Ollie Meet the Artist program. And occasionally, Facebook would just black us out because their algorithm on copyrighted music wouldn't work. So there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to happen before we can reliably offer live streaming as a technical option. So that's a long-winded answer of saying we're trying.
Okay, so I guess my request is, as you're looking at it for Center Stage, if you could also look at
Yeah,
it
we
for
are,
this room as
definitely.
well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Connie Hartkey, 2201 Quartermaster Lane. I am not a budget person, so I leave that to other people. But just putting it very simply, could the tax be reduced by half a cent and not cause a huge problem for the arts center that seems to be coming our way?
Well, the tax rate has nothing to do with the Art Center at present because...
Okay, then I strike that part of my question. What would be so terrible if there was relief of half a cent, as the county did for the regular property tax? I just knew around where I live, there are some houses that, somebody owns it. You never see them outside. They're in huge disrepair. I assume that is someone on a really fixed income who doesn't have extra. I also know a lot of houses that aren't in great shape, and they have renters in them. And, the landlord, we don't want them raising rates on people that
I think
can't
the
afford
board
more.
will certainly take the input under consideration. We've had discussions about the tax rate recently, and those videos are online and you can listen to them. I'll just reiterate some of the points that have been made in those conversations. One is that any cut in the tax rate in Reston would not benefit those very homeowners that you're describing very much. But the people it would greatly benefit would be the high land footprint developer community that pay the highest amount of tax revenue into the RCC budget. So the people of Reston experience a subsidy on the part of those commercial property owners to the tune of about 47% of the revenue that's provided.
And we have so many new commercial property owners with all the development in the TSA. So maybe an idea that could be put into our supervisor is a split, perhaps a split of this tax rate for this type of building and this tax rate for residential. Just a thought. I'm sure he would like everybody's suggestions.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Here we go.
Lila, I just got here from another meeting. Have you read Who's this lady?
Can you give us your name,
Yeah,
Tammy, and
Tammy
your
Train,
address?
2503 Foxcroft Way. Have you read a letter from Patty Lentz yet?
Not yet. I was waiting for the end of
Great.
the testimony.
Thanks.
So is that the end of comments or input or feedback? All right. As Tammy alluded, I do have a request from a patron to read into the record her feedback and input. She says, to whom it may concern, on June 13th at 6:30 p.m., the RCC BOG, Reston Community Center Board of Governors, will hold its annual public meeting in regard to the annual budget. I've outlined below what I believe are alarming actions in regard to how our taxpayer dollars are being allocated. In relation to what you will read below, I find it absolutely disgraceful that this very important meeting tonight is not virtual at Hunters Woods, since they have Wi-Fi and are using the Microsoft Teams platform. My name is Patricia Lentz. I have been a Reston resident for over 30 years. I live in the Hunter Mill District. A couple of weeks ago, I contacted Superintendent Alcorn's office and expressed my concern that the RCC was not following ADA, American Disability Act federal guidelines, which are enforced by the Department of Justice. I gave specific examples. I was assured that someone would get back to me, but that has not happened. Though I have read the FFC, Fairfax County statement that ADA shall be for all RCC programs and services, I have issues with the following. In the 2022 RCC Summer Program Guide under Leisure and Learning, there are 11 virtual programs, but several similar programs are not. Caring for a caregiver, Social Security, estate planning, to mention a few. Interested persons must attend in person at Hunters Woods when not virtual. And to be clear, I have a compromised immune system and unable to attend. I know others in my situation or seniors who worry about contracting COVID-19 and refuse to attend because you don't require masks or social distancing for in-person attendance. Why aren't all similar programs virtual, and why are there no hybrid programs? ADA addresses physical and mental disabilities, but the RCC does not. COVID-19 has pushed businesses, families, and individuals to alter their actions to survive in these uncharted times. The FFC Board of Supervisors needs to be sure their districts are also adjusting and making necessary changes needed to function and prosper in these challenging times. Technology is the world of today and the future. RCC can spend over $5 million for a swimming pool, but no focus for expanding the Microsoft Teams platform they are currently using. This is not serving the residents who pay your salaries and who you have been appointed to serve. Here are other concerns I have from reading RCC minutes and listening to videos. Why does Lila Gordon want to double the capital budget by $3.5 million? She provided no detail to support this and has performance going out 10 years in discussion. Even committee members question this. Why did Lila Gordon submit a budget where the individual columns don't sum to the printed total? Committee members also question this. With almost a 10% increase in 2022 residential assessments, why is there no discussion on reducing the 4.7% per $100 tax for Small District 5? This would exhibit true caring for the community they serve. Everyone in our country is suffering from high inflation, in particular to gas and food cost. In relation to the current videos, why are comments deliberately restricted? As annotated, there was some mention about children concerns. It's not appropriate for the RCC to worry about parental control of who is watching committee videos. Committee members should be conducting themselves appropriately at all times. The videos are poorly done, with conversations clearly edited and several statements by committee members repeated more than once. It makes me wonder what the RCC Board of Governors may be attempting to hide. I get an overall feeling that the RCC Board of Governors has lost the true meaning of social responsibility to the public it is elected to serve. I do commend you on the many programs and activities that you have done so well, But at this time, I am requesting that you do a better job in transparency to the public, technical support for all programs to reach all residents, and educate staff members so that when people call for information, they don't have to say, "I don't know," which is evident in website reviews. I also have experienced this. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Patty Lentz. I assured Supervisor Alcorn's office that I would not go through all of the responses to Patty's email item by item, but I want to make it very, very clear that none of the videos of RCC Board of Governors meetings are edited or altered in any way, except to add a title before and at the end. They are the official recordings and minutes of these proceedings. And I also want to make it clear that the text she's referring to in terms of comments and activities for children, that is standard text on the YouTube platform itself. That's not text that RCC has inserted into the YouTube platform. So I feel it's incumbent upon me to make a clarification in that regard. And I did respond to Patty point by point to the issues she raised in her email. And if anyone has any similar points to raise, I'd be happy to respond to you individually. And that is, I believe, the conclusion of input to the board. Yes? Sorry. Okay.
Something you said made me remember my question. My name's Margaret Perry, 2302 Whitetail Court. I noticed that you talked about a new website coming. I'm just curious, is that website going to be more friendly to your patrons who are on scholarship? Because currently the process is very painful. Everyone who is on scholarship, if you don't know this, they have to come in person to register for everything. And we've always been told it's because the website won't allow it. And I'm telling you from someone who runs multiple youth groups in this county, in this area, in Reston, it is a possibility. So is the new website, that's great that people can upload things on a calendar. I want to know, are you actually serving the people who need it?
Well, yes is the short answer to that question. And we are in conversation with Cornerstones to establish, and with the other human services partners in the Opportunity Neighborhood Program, we want to set up a kind of card that like our swimming pool passes and our ceramics passes, and the human services system writ large wants to get away from this, multiple front doors to services and multiple storytelling that has to go on to access services. So we're keenly aware of that. We do significant out of the building outreach to the communities served by Opportunity Neighborhood. We take the forms to those neighborhoods. We try to get those registration forms completed if they can on site. The technical mechanics of the fee waiver program will make it hard to have online access. We are working on it, and we will figure out ways to make it easier. We have certainly expanded the benefits radically over the last several years. We have increased the amounts. We have unlimited capacity to use the fee waiver program for summer camp seats, for example, and you can read in the annual report that we accommodated almost half of our fee waiver program expenditures were camp-related last calendar year. So we're trying every day to continue to improve access and functionality of the fee waiver program. Anyone else? Okay, so at this time, the board has follow-on motions that they have to make, so I'm going to move the microphone down to our treasurer for those.
Alrighty, do I have the, sorry, I just realized I didn't have the thing in front of me. Thank you. All right, I move that the staff continue to prepare the fiscal year 23 carryover package and fiscal year 24 budget submission consistent with the outlines presented and the Fairfax County Department of Management and budget requirements. We haven't moved and seconded.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
I move that the executive director continue to support the county response to the Boston Properties Block J proffer opportunity and continue to report to the board on progress made.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
I move that the meeting for the purposes of receiving the feasibility study regarding the Block J proffer and the presentation of the RCC annual public hearing for programs and budget materials be adjourned.
Second.
So moved. The meeting is adjourned.